Hey everybody, I have tried to record this video so many different times, so I'm just gonna try to go for it. But if you don't know me, my name is Kiana, and I have a son named Cole who was diagnosed with B-cell ALL leukemia at 14 months old. He's been in treatment for 9 months now, and he's doing amazing. So grateful for all his doctors and nurses, and so grateful for his dad, my fiance Miles, who has been with me through this whole thing. I couldn't have asked for a better support system. And yeah, things have been really tough, and looking back, I realized that I have not really said much about the beginning of our journey, how Cole was diagnosed with cancer, how we found out that something was wrong, and it's very, very hard to talk about and relive because my mind really doesn't want to go back there. But I thought that to be able to have this to look back on in a couple years when Cole could understand more about what's going on, he can kind of get more to the story. And I just want to make a video before we forget some of like the details, just because a lot has happened so far. Oh gosh, I told myself that I wasn't going to get teary-eyed. Okay, so if you know me in my personal life, I will gladly answer any questions that any of you guys have. You don't have to be afraid to talk about this with me. Like, this is our life, and I'd rather have people ask questions than be afraid. I know people don't really know what to say at times, and I get it, because before we were in this situation, I didn't want to hear about bad things happening to children or anyone. And to be honest with you, my knowledge of childhood cancer was like nothing. I honestly thought that it was like genetics or something, that there would be like more warning signs, or like something, immediately after they're born, that something's wrong. So I just want to make it known that this, some of you guys already know this, but this was completely a surprise to us, which makes it even more devastating. Cancer does not run in our family. We don't have a history of leukemia or anything like that. Basically, when the doctors diagnosed him, they said that this is bad luck, and it's nothing that we did wrong. It's nothing that happened when he was in the womb. Scientists are still trying to figure out what causes this, and basically his white blood cells mutated and turned into cancer cells, like attacking his body. And yeah, I had no idea, obviously, that something like that could happen, because you don't think about this stuff until it happens to you. But childhood cancer is a lot more common than people think. It's just not talked about often because it's a sad, touchy subject, and not a lot of government funding goes into childhood cancer research. It's about only 4%. So that's very disappointing, and I think that a lot of people are trying to do things to change that, which is amazing. But anyways, so to get into our story, there probably will be different videos and segments just because it's so long of a story already, and our son has gone through so much more than anybody should ever have to go through. But I want to tell his story because he's not old enough right now to tell his story, and I think this is important for everybody to hear. So, at the beginning of our story, so Cole was never really sick as a baby. There was no like huge warning signs. He really never even had a cold. And I thought, like, dang, we are doing good over here. Like, he's never sick. So, the only time he was really sick is when he was like teething and stuff. He'd get a minor fever. Like, I think at the worst he had like 101 temperature. So it was nothing crazy. So it was the end of March in 2021. We noticed that he had some bruises on his legs, and it didn't seem anything serious because he had just learned how to walk a couple months before. So, you know, when they're learning how to walk, they could like trip on themselves and fall down. And it was really not that concerning looking. But a couple days goes by, the bruises aren't going away. And there's more bruises. So then I started thinking, like, this is kind of weird. I don't know. And the first thought that came to our mind is that maybe because we're vegetarian, that we're missing in some supplements or some nutrients that Cole may need. So that's what we were thinking. We're leaning more towards. The last straw was when we saw that all of a sudden he had a bruise on his forehead. And we're like, okay, he has not fallen from what we've seen and hit his head. I don't understand where that would come from. Like, we would know if he fell and hit his head, he'd be crying. We watch him like a hawk. So, make an appointment with his pediatrician, and we get in there, and our doctor, she takes a look at him and is like, you know, they don't really look that severe, so I'm not too worried, but what we should do is do some blood work just to be safe. And thank God that she did, because I've heard horror stories of like pediatricians not taking things seriously and just brushing them off and like, oh, yep, it's fine. And then their kid ends up getting so sick and takes multiple doctors to figure something out. So I am very grateful that she right away sent us to go get blood work to be on the safe side. So when we had left the pediatrician that day, it was already too late. The lab was closed, so we needed to go in the next morning. So the next day we were just like a nervous mess, just because I remember thinking, like, this is probably the worst thing that we're ever gonna have to do to Cole. Like, I feel so bad that we have to like hold him down to get blood work. Like, that sounds horrible. And I just felt really sad that he had to go through that. And so it was very scary. They took him back and we had to hold him down, and he did really good. He didn't even understand what was going on. You know, we were more upset than he was, honestly. But I just felt so sad. And then, so we had made a follow-up appointment with the pediatrician, just because she said, oh, you know, when we get the blood work, we'll give you a call. But otherwise, let's just have you come in a couple of days, just to make sure that he's doing good and stuff. So days goes by, you know, we're thinking nothing serious, because if it was something bad, they obviously would have called us. So when we take him in, it was like 2 or 3 days later for his follow-up appointment. And it was like the last appointment of the day. So on a Friday, and they're closed over the weekend. So we like just had barely got in. And when we get there, Cole starts getting kind of like sleepy, and I thought it was a little strange, but not really too concerned. And then yeah, so they take us into the back room, to the exam room. And the nurse that brings us in, she's kind of like, oh, how's he feeling and stuff? And we didn't get your blood work. Like, are you supposed to come back today? Because we don't have any of your stuff. And I'm like, yeah, he's doing okay. And he was starting to get a little fussy and crying and stuff. So we noticed that all of a sudden he started getting like dots on his face when he was crying. And so I brought that up to the nurse, and I'll get more into it later, but basically what that was petechia, which I had never seen in my life before. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna give the lab a call. They're actually closed, so I'll call like their after hours line, like their emergency line, to get the blood work. And I'm like, okay. So she leaves, and it's like very, very quiet in there. So we could hear everything that's going on like out in the hallway outside of our room. And this is like one of the worst moments for us. We heard the nurse talking to Cole's pediatrician, and is like, oh, hey, they faxed over some of Cole's blood work. Here's part of it. And then you just hear his pediatrician go, and the nurse is like, are you okay, doctor? And she's like, no, this is not good. This is very, very, very bad. And then she's like, oh no. And then we can hear her like running down the hallway. And like me and Miles looked at each other and we're like, what? Like this, like it can't be something that bad, right? Like Cole seems totally fine, besides now he has some spots on his face, which is unusual. And like in that moment, both of us, we just felt so sick to our stomach. Like, what is happening? So we can hear her like rushing back pretty quickly, and she comes in. We could see that she's visibly upset, and she's like, I need to examine Cole. How is he? And then when we really, really realized something was very wrong is when she went to go examine him, she's like, please be careful. Don't put him down hard. I don't want to cause him to bleed. Like, we have to be very, very careful. And we're like I started like shaking. I was like, what is going on? And so she takes a look at him and she's like, yeah, that's petechia on his face. That's broken blood vessels caused by low platelet numbers. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I am so sorry to tell you this. I don't want to scare you, but this blood work is not good. You guys need to go to the emergency room as soon as possible. Like, we need to leave right now and go to the emergency room. And it felt like we were like in a movie or something. Like, this could not be real. And she said, I wish I would have got this blood work back a lot sooner, because this is not good. This is critically low. And like, she showed me the paper, and like there was like, it was like stars, like asterisks, critically low, like emergency, like bold. And she's like, his white blood cells are over the roof, like skyrocketing. Like, this is very weird. She said his platelets, he barely has any platelets. Which is, if you don't know, like the blood cells that clot, that help you clot so you don't bleed out. And she said his hemoglobin, his red blood cells, are very, very low. He's anemic right now. And she said, you need to go right now. She said, I already called this hospital that we're sending you to specializes in childhood oncology, and that's where you need to go just in case. And she said, I don't want to scare you, but these blood work numbers, they look consistent with leukemia, cancer. And I just, at that moment, I'm like, no, that's not possible. Cole is not sick. All that he has is bruising. Like, there would be more warning signs than this. And like, just looking at Miles's face, like, I've never seen him so scared. Like, we're just like looking at Cole so sad. I cannot believe that this is happening. Like, this can't be real. They must have got his blood work results like mixed up with somebody else. So the ride to the hospital, I think it's about 30 minutes away. So we were like panicking. This is the one they had to send us to because that's the one she needed us to go to. So I remember just freaking out, like trying to type in the directions because we had no idea where we're going. And like my fingers were like shaking so much, I couldn't even push the right buttons. And I just thought, we have to get there as soon as possible. Like, almost kind of like, I can't believe that they didn't get us an ambulance, which would have been like even more traumatizing. But so we get there, and they take us right into the back, into the pediatrics emergency room. And I'm just like hysterical. Like, I just like hand the nurse the paper, the blood work paper, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. They said we have to come here right now. Like, his blood work is not good. So he's like, they're like, okay, we're gonna go get the doctor. Just sit down, calm down. And so the whole thing was just so traumatizing. So the doctor comes in and is like, okay, let's examine him. Okay, he has petechia on his face. That means that his platelets are very low. So this blood work is correct, but we need to pull some more blood work just to verify that everything is okay, see if it's changed since the last time they took it. So all of a sudden, everything starts happening so quickly. So 2 nurses come in, and they're just like, okay, hold him down, hold his arm down. We have to put an IV catheter in. This is what we have to do right now. So totally traumatizing. Cole is like so hysterically crying. He's upset. Like, I can't help but be upset too because of the news that we just heard. So they put an IV catheter in, and all of a sudden a guy is coming in with an x-ray machine doing like x-rays, and everything's just like boom, 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 boom. And they get the blood work back what seems like 100 hours later of us just sitting there full on panicking. And at this point, we hadn't even called anybody, called our family or anything, because we didn't want to freak them out, and we just wanted to get to the emergency room as fast as possible. So the doctor comes in, and everything is a little foggy about this part because I just could not believe what I was hearing. And I swear they made a mistake. Like, I couldn't even I couldn't comprehend what was happening. But I believe that he said that the blood work was even worse now, because this is days later, because the lab did not send stat over his blood work results to our pediatrician. So I believe it was even worse, and he said he needs to be hospitalized. He said this seems unfortunately like cancer, and we're gonna have an oncologist come in and talk to you, and he needs blood transfusions as soon as possible. We're gonna order the blood right now. And seriously, our heads were just spinning. Like, everything's happening so quickly. So At this point, I mean, we're sitting there crying. I just remember running out of the room and running out of the hospital and like falling to the floor and just calling my parents, and they're totally hysterical when I tell them what's happening. And I just, I can't even explain how horrible that moment was. It's the worst day of our life. So then I go back into the room, and Miles is like, you know, we don't have his milk. At this time, he was on a different kind of milk, not regular, like whole milk that they have at the hospital. So the doctor recommended that we go get his normal stuff so we don't upset him even more with everything going on. And Cole's getting hungry. So Miles went all the way back to our house to get some bottles and stuff, and also take care of our dogs who were here alone. And in that time when he was gone, the oncologist came in to talk to me, and he was just like the warmest, comforting person ever in that moment. And he knew like exactly what to say. And like the fact that an oncologist was like in there talking to me, I knew that it was real. Like they wouldn't waste their time having him come in for no reason. Like obviously they really all do believe that he has cancer. And I remember just telling him like, he's never been sick. Like there was no warning signs besides these bruises. And he's like, it's not your fault. Like, you didn't do this. It's nothing you did wrong. Like, I'm so happy you brought him in when you guys did. And then he started examining him and like felt his stomach and stuff. And he's like, yeah, his kidneys and his spleen, I believe, are maybe he said liver and spleen are very swollen. And then he like showed me where to feel, and he's like, you're not supposed to be able to feel that. They are filled with leukemia cells. And you know, I was like, how did we not notice that? You know, I thought that his stomach being a little big was like, you know, just a typical like toddler tummy, you know, how they always walk around with their little tummies out. And he's like, it's okay. We're gonna take care of this. And obviously that's not what any parent, the news that they want to get, but he made it a lot, you know, easier. And he right away told me that if it is leukemia, they have to do a lot of testing and stuff to see which kind it is. And he said there's one that's you're gonna want him to have more than the other because the treatment is easier, and this has a high survival rate. So that was more comforting to hear, because the first thing when you hear cancer is you think like that they're gonna die right away, you know. So that's all that was going through my mind, is like I just you know, we just barely had Cole. Like he hasn't even had a chance, you know. How is this getting taken away from us already? But knowing what I know now, you know, Cole is doing amazing. He's done so much already. 9 months into treatment. He's about to be 2 years old this week, and he is the strongest little guy I've ever met. He's way stronger than me. The only reason I'm able to even hold it together, and same for Miles, is because that smile on his face and how he is so fearless and so tough. And he lets me know that everything's gonna be okay. So, yeah. Ugh. This video is long enough already. So, I'll make the next part of the video as soon as I can, talking about our hospital stay. It's a long adventure, but yeah, just again, grateful that Cole is doing so well now in his treatment. And I'm just grateful, thankful, all the words. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching this. I know that was probably rough. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, don't feel bad reaching out to me. Like I said, this is our life. I'd rather have people ask than, you know, just not talk to us or assume that, you know, we don't want to talk about it. So yeah, thank you. Bye.